Yeah, thanks for the invite. Maybe I can already start with an introduction. My name is Holger. I'm from the IOTA Foundation for the last 4.5 years. I've managed the collaboration with different industry partners in order to see how we can adopt blockchain or distributed ledger into the technology stack of corporates and of enterprises. And this goes across a variety of domains. So energy, agriculture, finance, and so on. And yeah, slides are up, thank you. So our vision at the IOTA Foundation is digital autonomy for everyone. So it's an open source protocol, what we are developing, the IOTA protocol. And the foundation is registered here in Berlin. It's a gemeinnützige Stiftung, so it's a non-for-profit. You don't need to pay any license costs. We develop open source. You don't need to watch a 30-second advertisement clip before you want to use it. So it's all free to use for everybody. And we are working, as I said, with large corporates, but have done a strategic shift also towards metaverse and Web3 over the course over the past 2 years. And in a couple of days, weeks, our new network is also going to launch, which is called Shimmer, which is going to bring a lot of those metaverse functionalities then also directly onto this new network. And there are some quite new features like NFTs can own other NFTs, or that your NFT can be a wallet by itself, or your NFT can hold the keys to a smart contract. And all of this is quite exciting for the tech audience in order to start building applications on top of it. But let me just ask, who here knows how a blockchain works? Ah, awesome. And who has bought an NFT so far? Ah, not so many. Who is intending to buy an NFT? You almost raised, no, still thinking. All right, but this also shows a bit that, next slide please, that the whole space is still very much in development. And when you think of blockchain and Web3, there are a couple of similarities. So based on the technical advancements over the last years. So if you look at this kitchen, maybe you have one of the devices that you already talk to Alexa, or you have a smart Roomba or something like this. But you can already see that over the last years, devices were just getting a lot smaller and a lot powerful. And this was mainly driven by new manufacturing methods to decrease the nanometer size in electronic production. But it was also driven by really fast advancements in machine learning, AI, and so on. So now we are at a point where a human-machine interaction is very much possible with Alexa. Also Google is a good example. I think it was 2 years ago, they condensed 120 gigabyte per user, for voice recognition, on their cloud servers into, well, it's an iPhone, it's not a Google Pixel, but essentially they condensed 120 gigabyte from the of software and voice recognition into 10 gigabyte local voice recognition on their smartphone, which is really good because it saves bandwidth to the Google data centers, it saves processing power, and it's a much better user experience because it directly interact with your device. And this shows that we are moving towards a stage where we have a lot more automations in our life. And it starts with the human-machine interaction, but this is going to continue a lot more. You can see it in self-driving Teslas, although even Tesla is only at a stage 2 of 5 stages of autonomous driving. But you can see that the direction is going very much towards automation. And blockchain and Web3 are essentially all about automation. Forget all the tokens and so on. The real goal of a blockchain is to be like an automation engine. It's a global data backbone, which is always available, which is resilient against third-party tampering. And you can start to use this global data backbone, even when it's a very young technology still, as part of your business models and interactions. And when you think of Web3, then next slide, please. Yeah. The IoT, so all of these devices which are always online, and the Web3, they share very similar requirements. So first you need interoperability, because there's not the one blockchain for everything, but it can easily like spin up a new blockchain, can create new tokens, can create like a new autonomy model or a new governance model on it. But then still the question is, should now everybody move to this blockchain, which is like probably not very likely because everybody has its own interest, of course, and also the companies are competing against each other with their ecosystem funding. So probably not the case that there's going to be like a one winner takes all market, at least not over the course over the next years. So we need interoperability. We also need composability. Composability means that when you change an asset from one blockchain to another or distributed ledger to another, that you have as little friction as possible. This also means that you should avoid bridges. At the moment, there are like a lot of bridges between blockchain systems, but a bridge is always like a complex thing because essentially you're trusting a third party who has a leg in both of the blockchains, and you're trusting this third party to send your funds there, and then they issue you some other funds in the other network. But a bridge, of course, is like a hassle for the user because you need to use the bridge. Maybe you need to pay the bridge provider. And if the bridge provider is anonymous and he does what is called like a rug pull, so pulling the rug under someone's feet, essentially they escape with all of the funds, and then, or there's a security hack, and then this was it for your tokens. Your tokens are gone. So you want to have as little bridges as possible. And this is like what composability means, that you can have like a direct and frictionless asset transfer. Then we need a highly scalable network with low or no cost, because like the goal is not really to have like a lot of small networks to interact with each other, because then you have like the ecosystems and the funding provided in those ecosystems too much fractured to like bring any value. So you also need like a critical mass, and you need to have a technology which is able to scale to your business requirements. Imagine if like Siemens would equip 3 million or maybe 3 billion sensors with, or IoT sensors with blockchain capability. The question is, how should they interact? There's like this future of the machine economy where the machines are getting like a lot smarter, and at one point they will not interact with the humans anymore, but maybe the machines will interact directly with each other. But like for this, we would also need a technology which can actually like handle all of this, maybe like in local clusters, and then those local clusters are interacting with each other, but we need a scalable technology. This is the second key point. And the third one is transaction speed and finality, because obviously when you're buying something or when you're transferring an NFT, you do not want to wait like for an hour. This is what is holding back also what is, maybe it's a little bit like too much, what is like holding back the zero knowledge proofs at the moment. Zero knowledge proofs, they are like a scalable, like a technology in order to scale blockchain, but at the moment they are not fully fledged out, but the research has like very much accelerated over the last like 6 to 8 months. But essentially transaction speed and finality means that you want to transact something fast, and finality means that you have such a high confidence that this transaction has gone through and it cannot be reversed anymore, that you can consider it as final. And then, of course, it should be lightweight and green, because we do not want to spend energy in the state the planet is currently in. Yeah. And when you think of Web3, so the simple explanation is like, what is Web3? Essentially, Web 1, where you had your username and password. You have Web 2, where all of the, where you have like larger providers and clusters to which people flock and are like content creators as well, like also Instagram, for example, or TikTok and so on. They're also like presenting like a hub where others can tap into. But for Web 3, the idea is that you own your identities and you own to what you want to connect, and like also own the data which you want to share. And you have the wallet, and only you have the cryptographic keys to give somebody access to this data. And like this slide is like aggregating it like a little bit. So you can see first we had the internet, email, browsers, messaging, and so on. And then the Web 2, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, was all about content creation. So you had like large providers which were like establishing themselves, but this also means that you have like a big hub in the middle, or like a man in the middle who is controlling and who is like able to censor stuff. And in the Web3, the idea is to have like this creator economy, and not to have creators just for the sake of creating, but essentially that you can create your own systems with your own values. You can define your own interactions, how you want to communicate or interact with other systems. And it's quite interesting, because I also wrote here DeFi as the first killer app for Web3. Because we have all heard about maybe the DeFi summer of 2021, where a lot of DeFi protocols were coming out. Sorry, who knows what DeFi is? So DeFi means decentralized finance. And it's essentially like when you can directly interact on open exchanges, and the exchange, for example, is not controlled by anybody, but the exchange is an algorithmic smart contract. So you know upfront what you're getting into, how the system can work, and that no party can censor it, as I said. And so it's maybe a bit provocative, no? But I wrote here Web2 is broken because like the large providers, they can censor stuff. You might have data loss when the providers are getting hacked. You have like a lot of surveillance. We see this especially in China, but you can also see it like with larger US providers, for example. And of course, we do not want to depend, like also in Germany. This is why, like Sebastian mentioned, Gaia X and Catena X and so on. So there are like some large European programs which are starting to build critical IT infrastructures for Germany, because at the moment there's like Google, there's AWS, and on the Asian side there's Tencent, Huawei and so on, which are creating large cloud infrastructures, but in Europe we don't really have this. And of course it's like can be an issue if we depend on American or Asian infrastructures. This is why Europe is like utilizing, I think it's like 4 billion in total, like only like for Gaia X, to establish like more European structures as well, that we are not so dependent. So of course you have like monopolies, and there's like advertising, because advertisement is the juice which has to be proven to finance all that stuff from a central point of view for Google and co. And so what we're going to see, or what is the tendency at the moment towards the Web3, is that there's going to be a shift. That the providers in Web3, they're going to use like open source software where it's possible for the sake of transparency. That the Web3 networks are permissionless. This means like everybody can join a network with what he wants to do. It's by design and definition, it's a neutral network, so there's like no preference who issues what. No? This results in freedom for the users to interact without any intermediaries, so you can directly participate. You can build those systems with what you have in mind, and of course, like it's not like a single source of failure, because the structure with which decentralized networks are built is a redundant structure, so that if you have like single servers which are failing or which have an outage, that like the network doesn't go down. You could argue that the same is with high available cloud systems, but at the same time, the AWS West 1 data center goes down every 1.5 to 2 years, and then suddenly thousands of companies are like stranded because they are using AWS servers from the data center. And decentralized networks and blockchain can provide like the means in order to establish like a redundant infrastructure for critical data and critical token exchanges, critical interactions, in order to not have the single point of failure. This also means that it should not be used for everything, of course, like many of the blockchain cases are, I would say, maybe even 95%, 99%. They're, from my personal point of view, they're just really stupid. It's just like saying, hey, we bring a hype word in, which is called blockchain or distributed ledger technology, although you can develop them much better on a centralized cloud system, because you're not emphasizing the real benefits of a blockchain. Yeah. And so, another like big important part is our payments. So with Web3, money is becoming like a standard part of this new system. You have cryptocurrency, which you can start to utilize. You have those peer-to-peer networks, which can directly then transact and have this like fail-safe. You have a consensus algorithm, which needs to be robust. So a consensus algorithm is essentially that an algorithm decides what is true in the network and what is false. And this is like also the big breakthrough of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the very first system which like showed that you cannot do a double spend, which means I spent the same money 2 times, that you cannot do a double spend because it's being surveillanced and it's being detected. And this was like the very first time that an electronic system or an electronic algorithm provided this confidence. Yeah.
We should not say they decide if it's true or false, but if the transaction has been correct.
That it follows like a certain syntax, essentially. No. And so you have cryptocurrency, we already talked about this. And the cool thing is that Web3 is like set up in a way that you can like natively join it from your phone, from your browser. So typically it's a web app and you can interact with it with a wallet directly on the phone, simply because of the movements of the last like 10 years of the tendency that everything has an app. This is quite nice because then those standards have been established over the last like 10 or 15 years. This is like how the Web3 infrastructure looks like, but for the sake of time, I think maybe we can skip the time. Yeah, thanks. So what do we have now with Web3? What are the benefits? We have some benefits which we do not have maybe today or which we did not have like 20 years ago. So we are moving to a free flow of information. I can publish anything like I want in an ecosystem, it cannot be censored. We have like a shift from local to global simply because we have the network connectivity to connect like thousands or 10,000s of users, or maybe like millions or billions ideally. It's going from slow to instant. If you ever did like a bank transfer or you do a bank transfer like from here to, I don't know, to Brazil, it just takes a couple of days until it's come through. If I send Bitcoin or any other like electronic currency, it takes maybe an hour. Ideally, it takes like 2 or 3 seconds, and that's it. It's going from expensive to free, the same like with the banking fees. No? So sending cryptocurrency is like not expensive. And it's going from a few people accessing the system to a more commodity. So we have like companies which are starting to build on those technical layers, and they can start to implement new business models on top of it, simply because we have like new advantages which the tech itself can provide. And this enables the flow of value. Yeah. But it also means UX is key. There's like always like some story in the news that a smart contract has been hacked. 200 million have been lost, 600 million have been lost. And this at the moment, the state of Ethereum, the security state of Ethereum, for example, which is like the largest system for smart contracts, they have like a very strong first mover advantage, is horrific. No? There's like the Ethereum virtual machine, what is called, on which like many of those like decentralized systems are building, and the security aspects of the EVM are just abysmal. No? Like you need to understand how your smart contract works and how your smart contract like interacts with this virtual machine, essentially down to the cryptographic function in order to build a secure system. This is like why also smart contract audits are incredibly expensive. If you're building a system with your own smart contract and you want to launch, let's say, a decentralized exchange, there are like very few auditors, and there are costs like 50,000 euros, 100,000 euros just for the audit of the smart contract. This should get better with new languages, like because at the moment Solidity as a language is being used in Ethereum. There's like one which is developed by Facebook, which is called Move, which is like a lot better. It's also open source, which is one thing which is nice by Facebook. But like this is like needed in order to give companies also the confidence, or like organizations the confidence to start building on those new technologies, because you don't want to build the house on sand, of course, when at one point everything might get hacked and then all your users are just losing the money. Yeah, So the typical use cases for the Web3 and also for the industry, what we are seeing today, is the creator economy. This means that you can, as I said, just create your own system. You can start to create your own content and so on. Manage your own subscribers as well. It's the metaverse, where like a lot of the physical and digital interaction is coming together. Blockchain games are like a big thing, although I don't know, if somebody is experienced in blockchain games, maybe I would be happy to have a discussion about the sustainability and economic models of the games, but it's like a big hype because they can attract like a lot of users at the moment, and they can like incentivize people also like in poorer countries to play the game, get engaged, and then earn some sort of cryptocurrency based on what they are playing. Decentralized finance is like a big one, so essentially speculative trading, lending, borrowing, and so on with new types of token-based models. And DAOs are also like a big one, so decentralized autonomous organizations. This means that everybody can participate in a DAO when you have like certain interests. Just looking at the clock. So if I have, no, just one back, yeah, thanks. So if I have like a certain interest and I want to get engaged in establishing like a virtual organization, and I want to get engaged, let's say I have a blockchain and this blockchain has raised 200 million, 300 million, it's an ecosystem of 500 million. The question is like, okay, what should we now do with the money? And there are like technical developments in order to create new businesses, in order to bring adoption to the market by, let's say, making the ease of use much simpler for blockchain. But there are also like opportunistic models to say, okay, we need to support like a certain industry because we want to be the one who, when we have a winner takes all market, we want to be the winner. But there are also like more altruistic or more like environmental friendly like setups to say maybe it makes sense to save the planet, and this is why I should invest into like green technologies, or we should invest into other like green programs to plant trees and so on, and this is what we want to use the money for, and then we want to like track what is happening with the trees, and if I would find this interesting, then I can say, awesome, I'm going to be a member of this DAO, and I'm going to bring in like my free time to make decisions and bring this program forward to engage myself as part of a global community. And until now you had this like very locally, that maybe you meet in a pub or something like this, but with DAOs there's like a good way to have like an international audience, international teams, and then also equip those teams with funding to not only like make decisions and establish a governance structure, but to really like make a real world impact based on it. And of course, there's privacy in digital infrastructure because we know the big players in the space. And the question is, should I really give all my data to Google now? Or Apple is like potentially a bit better. But Google, Facebook, and so on. The question is, should I really do this? Or wouldn't it be better to have like means of communication where I can interact in the internet or in the Web3, as a successor, without all of these like tracking mechanisms. Yeah, and like parts of it, like how the business cases are starting to be used, are NFTs, and NFTs are like very much known for just being like fancy profile pictures, which some might like, others don't. Essentially 50% say it's scam, the other 50% say, wait, it's digital art, and so on. And I think the truth, as always, is like somewhere in the middle, because NFTs is a non-fungible token. So essentially it's a piece of data which exists only once on the blockchain. And then you can decide if this piece of data should move somewhere else. And in many cases, it represents like one of those pictures. But essentially an NFT, what it like really is a new form of utility. I have something which is unique and which I can move in a decentralized system to other participants. So it can be used for access management, for access control. It can be used for digital scarcity, for new business models to say, I'm going to build a building and I'm going to have like 1 billion micro investors, and all of these micro investors, they could get a token, or they could get like an NFT, which like claims that they are a 1 billionth or millionth owner of this building. And because you can digitalize it, this is where it's coming back to the automation engine, it prevents 1 million people running to the notary and making those entries, and it also avoids complicated bookkeeping processes, because we can move this into an electronic form, and then it the whole experience becomes more frictionless. And when it becomes more frictionless, then I can do it directly in 10 seconds from my phone. Then it also enables new markets for micro investors, which say, I'm only going to invest 500 euros, let's say, but I'm owning a part of this building, and I can participate in the profit of this building. So it enables new revenue models. It also works as a status symbol, where you can say, I have this in the real world, and now I have my luxury good displayed as NFT. I'm seeing we're running out of time, right?
Yes and no. He's again lost.
Okay, I keep talking until he comes back. If he doesn't come back, then... All right. Let me just finish the slide. So we have electronic money, stable coins, and so on. Is also something what at the moment many banks are looking into. So essentially to say, how can I use the scarcity aspect? Because a blockchain is in one thing, it's really good. A blockchain is really good in managing distributed systems and understanding how many tokens are on which address. This is the main purpose of the blockchain, that everybody has an understanding, a single source of truth, how many tokens are owned by which participant. And then essentially you can say, I'm going to build on this a representation of digital stocks or maybe digital money and so on. But yeah, and how to utilize this for, as I said, new business models and new economies. All right, but then let's stop the presentation here. Yeah, this is the metaverse. We can skip this. We can skip this. We can skip this for now. So, thanks very much. I hope I didn't bore you too much. And if you're interested, come talk to me and or ask a question now.